The restaurant was bustling with the usual evening crowd, a mix of business people in sharp suits and couples on casual dates. The soft hum of conversation filled the air, blending with the clinking of glasses and the faint sizzle from the kitchen. Lily Carter moved swiftly between tables, balancing plates of food and drinks with practiced ease. Her dark hair was tied back into a neat ponytail, and her apron had seen better days, but she wore it like armor against the chaos of the night. Lily wasn't just working another shift. She was fighting for survival. At 24, life hadn't been kind to her. Bills piled up faster than she could pay them off, and every dollar she earned went straight toward keeping a roof over her head. She didn't have time to dream about anything else. Not anymore. Still, there were moments when she let herself imagine what it would be like to have stability, to wake up without worrying how she'd make rent or whether her car would break down again. Those thoughts came rarely these days, usually late at night when the world felt quiet enough to listen. Tonight, though, something, or rather someone, caught her attention. Sitting alone at one of the corner tables was a man who looked completely out of place. He wore a perfectly tailored navy blue suit that screamed money even from across the room. His posture was rigid, as if he were conducting a meeting instead of enjoying dinner by himself. There was an aura of control around him, the kind that made people instinctively give him space. His face was handsome but stern, with sharp features, softened only slightly by the dim lighting of the restaurant. Lily recognized him immediately. Everyone did. Nathan Brooks, the billionaire CEO of Nexus Tech, one of the largest tech companies in the world. His name was everywhere, on billboards in magazines and all over social media. He was famous not just for his wealth but also for his reclusive nature. Interviews with him were rare, and photos of him outside of corporate events were practically non-existent. Seeing him here in this ordinary restaurant felt surreal. As she approached his table to take his order, Lily couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She smoothed her apron self-consciously and forced a polite smile. "Good evening, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Can I get you started with something to drink?" Nathan glanced up at her briefly, before returning his gaze to the menu. His eyes were a piercing shade of gray, and they seemed to see right through her. "Water will do," he replied curtly, his tone clipped but not unkind. "Of course," Lily said, jotting down the request on her notepad. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should say anything else. Most customers appreciated small talk, but something about Nathan's demeanor told her he wouldn't. Instead, she gave him a quick nod and turned to leave. When she returned with his glass of water, Nathan had already placed his order with another server who happened to pass by. Lily set the glass down carefully, making sure not to spill a drop. But as she pulled away, her elbow accidentally brushed against the edge of the table. The glass wobbled dangerously before tipping over, spilling its contents onto the pristine white tablecloth. "Oh no," Lily gasped, her cheeks flushing red with embarrassment. She grabbed a napkin and started dabbing at the spreading puddle. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Brooks, I didn't mean to." "It's fine," Nathan interrupted, his voice calm but firm. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek leather wallet to shield it from the water. As he opened it to retrieve some cash, something inside caught Lily's eye. A small, faded photograph tucked into the corner of the wallet. Lily froze mid-motion, her heart skipping a beat. The woman in the picture looked familiar, almost hauntingly so. It took her a second to realize why. The resemblance was uncanny. That was her mother. There was no mistaking it. The same warm smile, the same curly brown hair. It was Claire Bennett, her mom, frozen in time in black and white. Her hands trembled as she continued blotting the table, trying to process what she was seeing. Why would Nathan Brooks, a man she'd never met before tonight, have a picture of her mother? It didn't make sense. Her mind raced with questions, each more confusing than the last. Was this some kind of mistake? Did he know her mother? And if he did, why had she never heard about him? Before she could stop herself, the words tumbled out of her mouth. "Sir, why is my mother's picture in your wallet?" The room seemed to grow quieter, as if everyone else had disappeared except for the two of them. Nathan stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then finally, he closed the wallet and slipped it back into his pocket. His voice was low and measured when he responded, "Follow me." Lily's stomach churned with unease. What had she just gotten herself into? Following a stranger, especially one as powerful as Nathan Brooks, wasn't exactly safe. But curiosity burned inside her like a flame. This was her mother they were talking about. If Nathan knew something about Claire, she needed to find out what it was. Taking a deep breath, Lily nodded and followed him out of the restaurant. They walked in silence, the cool night air doing little to calm her racing thoughts. Nathan led her to a sleek black car parked nearby. Without a word, he opened the passenger door for her. Hesitating only for a second, Lily climbed inside. As the car pulled away from the curb, Lily stole glances at Nathan's profile. His jaw was clenched tightly, and his knuckles gripped the steering wheel with tension. Whatever connection he had, to her mother, it clearly wasn't something he enjoyed discussing. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to change everything she thought she knew about her family, and maybe even herself. For now, all she could do was wait and hope that the answers she sought were worth the risk she was taking. The car ride was quiet, the kind of silence that pressed against Lily's ears like a weight. She stared out the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks as they sped through the streets. Her mind raced with questions, each one more confusing than the last. Why did Nathan Brooks have her mother's picture? What could he possibly know about Claire Bennett? And why had he reacted so strangely when she asked him about it? Nathan didn't say a word during the drive. His focus remained on the road, his hands steady on the wheel. Occasionally, he glanced at her in the rearview mirror, but his expression gave nothing away. Whatever secrets he carried, he wasn't ready to share them yet. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a towering skyscraper in the heart of downtown Chicago. The building gleamed under the night sky, its glass facade reflecting the glow of the city around it. Nathan parked the car in a private garage and led Lily to an elevator that required a keycard to access. As the doors slid shut behind them, Lily noticed how luxurious the interior was. Polished wood panels, soft lighting, and a faint scent of leather. "This is where I live," Nathan said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was calm, but distant, as if he were speaking to himself rather than her. "We'll talk there." Lily nodded, though her stomach churned with unease. She had no idea what to expect, but something told her this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. The elevator climbed higher and higher until it stopped at the top floor. When the doors opened, they stepped into a sprawling penthouse suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline, and the furniture looked expensive but sparse, as if the space hadn't been lived in much. "Have a seat," Nathan said, gesturing toward a sleek leather couch. He walked over to a bar tucked into the corner of the room and poured 2 glasses of water. Handing one to Lily, he sat down across from her in a chair that matched the minimalist design of the apartment. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily took a sip of the water, her hands trembling slightly. She wanted to ask him everything at once, but she forced herself to stay calm. Nathan seemed to sense her impatience because he finally leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Chut, woman in the photograph," he began, his voice quieter now, almost hesitant, "is your mother. Her name is Claire Bennett." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Hearing someone else confirm what she already suspected made it feel real in a way she hadn't anticipated. "But how do you know her?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan sighed deeply, as if the weight of the memories was too heavy to carry alone. "Your mother and I worked together many years ago. We were part of a team developing advanced technology, things most people wouldn't believe are possible. It was groundbreaking work, but it came with risks we didn't fully understand at the time." Lily frowned, trying to make sense of what he was saying. "What kind of technology?" Nathan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Imagine being able to connect the human brain directly to machines, to enhance memory, speed up learning, even heal injuries by rewiring neural pathways. That's what we were working on, a project called Nexus. Lily's eyes widened. She had heard vague rumors about such experiments before, usually in science fiction movies or conspiracy theories online, but hearing Nathan describe it as though it were real sent a shiver down her spine. And my mom was part of this? She was one of the best, Nathan replied, his tone tinged with admiration. Claire was brilliant, creative, driven, fearless. She believed in the potential of our work to change the world for the better, but not everyone shared her optimism. What do you mean? Lily asked, leaning forward in her seat. There were disagreements within the team. Nathan explained. Some wanted to push the boundaries further, faster. Others, like Claire, worried about the consequences. They argued that we weren't ready, not ethically, not scientifically. Things got complicated. Lily could hear the regret in his voice, the unspoken weight of decisions made long ago. So what happened? Where is she now? Nathan's jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked away. She disappeared, about 20 years ago. One day she was there, and the next, gone. No note, no explanation. Just empty lab benches and unanswered questions. Lily felt a lump rise in her throat. She had always known her mother was gone, of course. Claire had left when Lily was just a baby, leaving behind only fragments of stories and old photographs, but hearing it described this way, like a mystery unsolved, made her chest ache with longing and frustration. Why did you keep her picture? Lily asked softly, holding back tears. If she meant so much to you, why didn't you try to find her? Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out the wallet again. He opened it slowly, revealing the faded photograph of Claire. His fingers brushed against the edges as if touching something sacred. Because I never stopped hoping, he admitted. I kept it as a reminder of what we lost. Not just your mother, but the dream we shared. Somewhere deep down, I still believe she's out there, and maybe, just maybe, she wants to be found. Lily stared at the photo, her heart pounding in her chest. This man sitting across from her wasn't just some billionaire CEO. He was someone who had loved her mother, or at least cared deeply about her. The realization hit her like a wave, washing away some of the anger and confusion she'd carried for so long. But why does she matter to you? Lily pressed, needing to understand. You're rich, powerful. You could have anyone in the world. Why hold on to someone who left? Nathan's gaze softened, and for the first time Lily saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Because she reminded me of what truly matters, he said simply. In a world obsessed with progress and profit, Claire stood for something different. She believed in humanity, in its flaws, its potential, its capacity for good. She made me want to be better. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Lily didn't know what to say. Everything she thought she knew about her mother, and herself, was shifting beneath her feet. For years, she had resented Claire, for abandoning her, for leaving her to grow up without answers. But now, hearing Nathan speak about her with such reverence, she began to wonder if there was more to the story. Do you think she's still alive? Lily asked after a long pause. Nathan hesitated, weighing his response. I don't know, he admitted, but if there's even a chance, I owe it to her and to myself to find out. Lily felt a spark of determination ignite within her. If Nathan was willing to search for Claire, then so was she. Maybe, just maybe, they could uncover the truth together, and in doing so, she might finally learn who her mother really was, and who she herself was meant to become. As the city lights twinkled outside the window, casting shadows across the room, Lily realized her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't turn back now. The next morning, Lily woke up in a guest room of Nathan's penthouse. The sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting golden beams across the sleek furniture. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes and trying to process everything that had happened the night before. It felt like a dream, like she had stepped into someone else's life and was now expected to play along. Nathan had given her the guest room after their long conversation, saying they would dive deeper into the mystery once she'd rested, but sleep hadn't come easily. Her mind kept replaying his words, especially the ones about her mother. Claire Bennett wasn't just a name anymore. She was a person with dreams, fears, and secrets. And somehow those secrets were tied to Lily herself. When she finally emerged from the guest room, she found Nathan sitting at a desk in the living area. He was surrounded by stacks of papers, old photographs, and what looked like blueprints. His suit jacket was gone, and the sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up, revealing forearms marked with years of hard work. He glanced up as she entered, his expression softening slightly. "Good morning," he said, gesturing for her to sit down. "I thought you might want to see some of this." Lily hesitated before joining him at the desk. The documents spread out before her were filled with technical jargon and diagrams she didn't fully understand. But there were also handwritten notes, sketches, and faded Polaroid photos. One picture caught her eye. It showed Nathan and Claire standing side by side in front of a lab, smiling warmly at the camera. They looked happy, almost carefree. "What is all this?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with awe. "This is what remains of the Nexus project," Nathan replied, tapping a stack of papers. "Claire left behind some of her research when she disappeared. I've kept it safe ever since, hoping it might lead me to her someday." Lily picked up one of the pages, scanning the text. Most of it went over her head, but certain phrases stood out. Neural interface, cognitive enhancement, and ethics review. She frowned, turning back to Nathan. "You said this project was dangerous. What exactly made it so risky?" Nathan leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowing, as if he were debating how much to reveal. Finally, he sighed. "The technology we were developing had incredible potential for medicine, education, even space exploration. But it also raised serious ethical questions. For example, what happens when you blur the line between human and machine? When does enhancement become manipulation? And who decides where to draw the line?" Lily nodded slowly, beginning to grasp the enormity of what they were discussing. "So my mom, she didn't agree with pushing forward too quickly?" "That's right," Nathan confirmed. "Claire believed we needed stricter safeguards. She argued that humanity wasn't ready for such power, not without understanding the consequences first. Unfortunately, not everyone shared her caution." "What do you mean?" Lily pressed, sensing there was more to the story. "There were disagreements within the team," Nathan explained, his tone growing darker. "Some members wanted to accelerate the project no matter the cost. They saw delays as setbacks, obstacles to progress. Tensions escalated until, well, things fell apart." Lily's heart sank. "And my mom disappeared during all this?" "Yes," Nathan said quietly. "One day she simply vanished. No warning, no explanation. At first I thought she might have been forced out, or worse. But then I found these." He reached into a folder and pulled out a series of encrypted files stored on an old USB drive. "These are messages she left behind, hidden in her research notes." Lily stared at the small device in his hand, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. "What do they say?" "I haven't been able to decode them all," Nathan admitted. "But the few I've cracked suggest she went into hiding to protect the project and herself. She feared that continuing the work could lead to disaster." "Disaster?" Lily echoed, her stomach tightening. "What kind of disaster?" Nathan hesitated, his gaze distant. "Imagine a world where machines can override human will. Where people lose control of their own thoughts, memories, even emotions. That's what we were playing with, a Pandora's box of unintended consequences." Lily shivered, imagining the horrors such technology could unleash. Why didn't anyone? "Stop it! We tried," Nathan said bitterly. "But once the government got involved, it became bigger than any of us. They saw Nexus as a weapon, a tool for dominance. Claire knew that, and she fought against it. In the end, she sacrificed everything to keep it out of the wrong hands. The Weight of his words settled heavily on Lily. Her mother hadn't abandoned her family. She had risked her life to prevent a catastrophe. The realization brought tears to her eyes, but it also filled her with pride. Claire Bennett wasn't just a scientist. She was a hero. "So what do we do now?" Lily asked, wiping away a stray tear. "How do we find her?" Nathan handed her the USB drive, his expression resolute. "We start here. These messages might hold clues to where she went. If we can decode them, we might be able to follow her trail." Lily took the drive carefully, holding it as if it were a lifeline. "Do you think she's still alive?" Nathan paused, his gray eyes locking onto hers. "I don't know, but I believe in her. If anyone could survive, it's Claire." Determined, Lily nodded. "Then let's get to work." Over the next several hours, they pored over the files together. Nathan guided her through the basics of encryption, teaching her how to crack simple codes. It was slow going, frustrating at times, but every breakthrough brought them closer to uncovering the truth. One message in particular stood out, a string of coordinates followed by a single sentence written in Claire's handwriting. "Find me if you dare." Lily traced the words with her finger, her pulse quickening. "What does it mean?" "It means your mother left a breadcrumb trail," Nathan said, his voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension. "Those coordinates point to a location in Alaska, a remote facility buried deep in the wilderness." "A facility?" Lily repeated, her mind racing. "Do you think she's there?" "It's possible," Nathan replied. "Or maybe it's another clue. Either way, it's our best lead." Lily clenched her fists, resolve burning inside her. "Then we go." Nathan studied her for a moment, seeing the determination in her eyes. "Are you sure? This won't be easy. We'll be traveling to one of the most isolated places on Earth with no guarantee of answers." "I'm sure," Lily said firmly. "If there's even a chance my mom is out there, I need to find her. I owe it to her. And to myself." Nathan nodded, respect flickering in his gaze. "All right. We leave tomorrow." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lily felt a strange sense of purpose settle over her. For so long she had felt lost, adrift in a sea of unanswered questions. Now, for the first time, she had a direction, a mission. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it. The journey to Alaska was long and grueling, but neither Lily nor Nathan complained. They flew first to Anchorage, where they boarded a small charter plane that took them closer to their destination. From there, they traveled by snowmobiles across the frozen wilderness, guided only by the coordinates etched on the USB drive. The landscape around them was vast and desolate, miles of white stretching endlessly under a pale gray sky. Lily clung tightly to Nathan as they sped through the icy terrain, her breath visible in the frigid air. She had never been anywhere like this before. The cold bit at her skin despite the layers of clothing she wore, and the silence was almost oppressive, broken only by the hum of the snowmobile engines. It felt like they were traveling to the edge of the world, far removed from civilization and its comforts. As they approached the location marked by the coordinates, the horizon began to reveal the faint outline of a structure, a cluster of buildings partially buried in snow. At first glance, it looked abandoned, its walls cracked and windows shattered. But something about it unsettled Lily. There was an eerie stillness to the place, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for intruders. "This is it," Nathan said, his voice low as he killed the engine of his snowmobile. He glanced around cautiously, his eyes scanning the area for signs of movement. "Be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." Lily nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She slid off the snowmobile and followed Nathan toward the entrance of the largest building. The door creaked loudly as they pushed it open, revealing a dark interior, lit only by the dim light filtering through cracks in the walls. Inside, the air was stale and smelled faintly of rust and decay. They moved carefully through the corridors, their footsteps echoing softly against the concrete floors. The facility looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Papers were scattered across desks, Equipment lay covered in dust, and the walls bore faded posters warning of safety protocols. It was clear that whoever had once worked here had left in a hurry. Nathan led the way, his flashlight cutting through the darkness as they explored room after room. Most of the spaces were empty, but some held remnants of experiments, half-finished prototypes, tangled wires, and strange machines whose purpose Lily couldn't begin to guess. Each discovery deepened the mystery surrounding Claire's disappearance. Finally, they reached a heavy metal door at the end of one hallway. Unlike the others, this one appeared intact with no signs of forced entry. A keypad beside it suggested it required a code to unlock. Nathan frowned, examining the device closely. "Can you crack it?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can try," Nathan replied, pulling out a small handheld gadget from his bag. He connected it to the keypad and began typing rapidly, his fingers flying over the tiny screen. After several tense minutes, there was a soft click, and the door swung open with a groan. Inside was a large chamber filled with rows of cryogenic pods. Their sleek design stood in stark contrast to the dilapidation of the rest of the facility. Most of the pods were empty, their glass panels fogged with frost, but one pod in the center of the room caught their attention. It was active, emitting a faint blue glow. Lily stepped forward hesitantly, her pulse racing. Through the frosted glass, she could make out the silhouette of a person inside. Her breath hitched as realization dawned on her. Could it be? Was it possible? Is that... She started, unable to finish the sentence. Nathan moved closer, inspecting the controls attached to the pod. His expression was unreadable as he studied the readings, displayed on the monitor. "It's her," he said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "It's Claire." Lily felt tears welling up in her eyes as she pressed her hand against the cold glass. The woman inside looked peaceful, her features frozen in time. Though her hair was shorter and her face younger than Lily remembered from old photographs, there was no mistaking her. This was her mother, the woman who had haunted her memories for so long. How is this even possible? Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "Why is she here?" Nathan turned to her, his expression grim. "Cryopreservation," he explained. "It slows aging to a near standstill. Your mother must have chosen this, to protect herself or to buy time until the project could be completed safely." "But why didn't she tell anyone?" Lily asked, her voice rising slightly. "Why leave me behind? She probably thought she had no choice," Nathan said gently. "If she stayed, she risked being used, or worse. Hiding was the only way to ensure the technology wouldn't fall into the wrong hands." Lily nodded slowly, though the ache in her chest didn't ease. Knowing her mother's reasons didn't erase the years of longing and unanswered questions. Still, seeing her now, even in stasis, felt like a miracle. "We need to wake her," Lily said firmly, determination hardening. Her tone, "She deserves to know I'm here, that I haven't given up on her." Nathan hesitated, his brow furrowing. "It's not that simple. Reviving someone from cryosleep isn't just flipping a switch. It requires precise calculations and monitoring. If we rush it, we could cause permanent damage or worse." Lily clenched her fists, frustration bubbling inside her. "Then figure it out. Please, I'll do whatever it takes." Nathan studied her for a moment, seeing the resolve in her eyes. Finally, he nodded. "All right, let's get to work." Over the next few hours, they pored over the machinery and documentation scattered throughout the facility. Nathan worked tirelessly, deciphering manuals and recalibrating systems while Lily assisted however she could. Despite the complexity of the task, they made steady progress, driven by the hope of reuniting Lily with her mother. As they worked, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Every so often she would catch a flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye, or hear a faint sound that didn't belong. When she mentioned it to Nathan, he dismissed it as paranoia caused by exhaustion. But deep down, she knew better. Someone or something was watching them. By the time they finished preparing the pod for revival, night had fallen outside, casting the facility in shadows. Nathan double-checked the settings one last time before turning to Lily. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice serious. Lily swallowed hard, nodding. "Yes, let's bring her back." With a deep breath, Nathan pressed the final button. The pod hissed softly as the process began, the blue glow intensifying before gradually fading. Slowly, the glass panel slid open, releasing a cloud of frosty vapor. Inside, Claire stirred, her eyelids fluttering as consciousness returned. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Claire opened her eyes fully and looked up at them. Her gaze landed first on Nathan, recognition softening her features. "Nathan," she murmured, her voice weak but warm. "You found me." Tears streamed down Lily's face as she stepped closer, her voice breaking. "Mom, it's me. It's Lily." Claire turned her head slowly, taking in the young woman, standing before her. For a brief moment, confusion clouded her eyes. Then, understanding dawned, and her lips curved into a faint smile. "My baby," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. "You've grown so much." Lily collapsed to her knees, gripping her mother's hand tightly. All the years of pain and longing melted away in that single moment of connection. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a family. The reunion between Lily and her mother was bittersweet. Claire's voice was soft and fragile, as if it had been unused for years, but the love in her eyes shone brightly. She held Lily's hand tightly, studying her face as though trying to memorize every detail. Tears streamed down both their cheeks, mixing with laughter and whispered apologies. "I'm so sorry," Claire murmured, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to leave you, but I didn't have a choice." Lily shook her head, her own tears falling freely. "It's okay, Mom. We're together now. That's all that matters." Nathan stood nearby, giving them space but keeping a watchful eye on Claire. He knew she needed time to adjust, but he also couldn't ignore the risks they were facing. The facility wasn't safe, not with whoever or whatever had been watching them earlier. They needed answers, and fast. When the initial flood of emotions began to subside, Claire turned her attention to Nathan. Her expression softened further, gratitude and relief washing over her features. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice thick with emotion. "For finding me. For bringing my daughter back to me." Nathan nodded, his usual stoic demeanor cracking slightly. "You don't owe me anything, Claire. This is long overdue." Claire smiled faintly before turning back to Lily. "Tell me everything," she urged. "How did you find me? What's happened since—" Lily hesitated, unsure where to begin. So much had changed in the decades Claire had been gone. The world outside was different now, faster, more connected, yet somehow colder. How could she explain all of it without overwhelming her? "We started with your research," Nathan interjected gently, stepping forward. "Your encrypted messages led us here. It wasn't easy, but we followed the trail." Claire's gaze sharpened, her scientist instincts kicking in. "The Nexus project," she said, her tone growing serious. "Did you finish it?" "No," Nathan replied firmly. "After you disappeared, the project collapsed. Too many disagreements, too much fear about what it could become." Claire sighed, closing her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, there was a mixture of sadness and determination in her expression. "Good. It wasn't ready. Not then, and maybe not ever." "What do you mean?" Lily asked, leaning closer. "What exactly was Nexus?" Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself. Nexus was an attempt to merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence, to create beings who could exist in both physical and digital realms simultaneously. On paper, it sounded revolutionary. In practice, she trailed off, shaking her head. It was dangerous, unstable. We pushed boundaries we didn't fully understand, and the consequences were catastrophic. "What kind of consequences?" Lily pressed, her stomach tightening. Claire hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Some test subjects became hybrids, part human, part machine. At first it seemed successful. Their minds expanded, their abilities surpassed anything we'd imagined. But over time they lost control. Their identities fractured, some went mad. Others vanished entirely. Vanished, Nathan echoed, his voice tense. Into the digital realm. Yes, Claire confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. They crossed over completely, leaving their bodies behind. We couldn't bring them back. A heavy silence fell over the room. The implications of what Claire was saying sank in slowly, like stones dropping into water. These weren't just experiments gone wrong. They were lives destroyed, people erased from existence. And that's why you hid, Lily asked finally, her voice breaking slightly. To stop it? Claire nodded, her grip tightening on Lily's hand. I sabotaged the program and fled. I knew if I stayed, they would use me to continue the work, to turn Nexus into a weapon. I couldn't let that happen. But why cryopreservation? Nathan asked, his brow furrowing. Why not disappear completely? I needed time, Claire explained. Time to figure out how to fix what we'd broken, or at least ensure no one else could repeat our mistakes. Cryosleep was the only way to stay hidden while preserving myself for when the world might be ready. Lily stared at her mother, awe and admiration mingling with sorrow. Claire hadn't abandoned her family. She had sacrificed everything to protect humanity. The realization filled her with pride, even as it broke her heart. So what happens now? Lily asked softly. Do we go back? Start over? Claire exchanged a glance with Nathan, her expression thoughtful. That depends on you two, she said. Nexus isn't finished. It never will be. The technology exists and someone will try to recreate it. If you want to stop that, we need to act quickly. What are you suggesting? Nathan asked, his tone cautious. We rebuild Nexus, but differently this time, Claire replied, her voice firm. With strict ethical guidelines, transparency, accountability. It won't be easy, but if done right, it could change the world for the better. Lily frowned, uncertainty clouding her thoughts. But after everything that's happened, can we trust ourselves to get it right? That's the question, isn't it? Claire said, her gaze steady. Humanity has always walked a fine line between progress and destruction. The choice is ours, whether we step forward or fall back. Nathan leaned against the wall, his arms crossed as he considered her words. It's a risk, he admitted, but maybe it's worth taking. Lily looked between them, weighing their determination against her own fears. She didn't know much about science or technology, but she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't stand by and let others make the same mistakes her mother had fought so hard to prevent. If we're doing this, she said finally, her voice resolute, then I'm in. Whatever it takes. Claire smiled, pride shining in her eyes. Then let's begin. As they discussed their next steps, the weight of the task ahead settled heavily on their shoulders. But for the first time in years, they felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to rewrite the story of Nexus and honor those who had been lost along the way. Outside, the wind howled through the frozen wilderness, carrying whispers of secrets buried deep beneath the snow. Somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes watched and waited, their intentions unknown. But inside the crumbling facility, 3 hearts beat as one, united by purpose and driven by love. The decision to rebuild Nexus was made, but it wasn't without its challenges. Claire, Nathan, and Lily knew they couldn't do it alone. They needed a team, people who understood the science, shared their vision, and could be trusted to keep the project ethical. But finding such individuals wouldn't be easy, especially given the secrecy surrounding Nexus in the past. We'll start small, Claire said as they packed up supplies from the abandoned facility. Her strength had returned slowly, though. She still moved with caution, her body adjusting to being awake after decades of stasis. Trust is key. We can't afford another betrayal. Nathan nodded, his expression thoughtful. I have contacts who might help, scientists and engineers I've worked with before, people who value ethics over profit. And what about me? Lily asked hesitantly. She felt out of place among the two brilliant minds, unsure how she fit into their plans. I don't know anything about this stuff. You're part of this too, Claire said firmly, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. Your perspective matters. You represent the people we're trying to protect, the ones who will live with the consequences of our work. Lily swallowed hard, touched by her mother's words. She didn't feel like she had much to offer, but she resolved to learn everything she could. If this was her chance to make a difference, she wasn't going to waste it. As they prepared to leave the facility, Claire paused at the cryogenic pod that had held her for so long. She ran her fingers along its smooth surface, her expression unreadable. This place saved me, she murmured, but it's also a reminder of what we lost. Let's not forget that. With that, they sealed the facility behind them, leaving it as they had found it, a relic of the past buried beneath layers of snow and memory. The journey back to civilization was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. By the time they reached Anchorage, a plan had begun to take shape. Over the next few weeks, Nathan reached out to his network, assembling a small but dedicated team of experts. Each member was carefully vetted, not just for their skills, but for their commitment to doing the right thing. Claire led the scientific efforts, poring over old research notes while working to refine the technology. She insisted on incorporating safeguards to prevent the instability that had plagued earlier versions of Nexus. Lily threw herself into learning as much as she could. She attended meetings, asked endless questions, and even helped organize logistics for the growing operation. Slowly, she began to understand the scope of what they were trying to achieve, and the risks involved. It wasn't just about creating something groundbreaking, it was about ensuring it wouldn't harm anyone. Despite their progress, tensions lingered. Shadows from the past loomed large, and the trio couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Strange emails arrived in Nathan's inbox, unsigned messages warning them to abandon the project. One night, someone broke into their temporary lab, stealing equipment and scattering documents. The message was clear. They weren't welcome. We need to move faster, Claire urged during one particularly tense meeting. Whoever's behind this won't stop until we're shut down, or worse. Nathan agreed, his jaw tightening. Then, let's finish what we started. Together. Months passed and the new Nexus project began to take form. Unlike its predecessor, this version prioritized safety and transparency. Every step was documented, every decision debated openly. The team worked tirelessly, fueled by a shared sense of purpose. For the first time in years, Claire felt hopeful. She saw glimpses of the dream she and Nathan had once shared. A world where technology served humanity rather than controlling it. Lily blossomed under her mother's guidance. She discovered a passion for advocacy, using her voice to champion ethical practices within the project. Her presence reminded everyone why they were doing this, not for fame or fortune, but to build a better future. When the prototype was finally ready, the team gathered in the lab to witness the moment of truth. A volunteer, a young man named Alex who had been paralyzed in an accident, agreed to test the neural interface. If successful, it would restore his ability to walk without risking the instability of earlier attempts. As Alex lay on the operating table, electrodes attached to his head, Claire stood nearby, her hands clasped tightly. Nathan monitored the system, his eyes glued to the screens. Lily held Alex's hand, offering reassurance. Ready? Claire asked softly. Alex nodded, his face pale but determined. Let's do this. The procedure began, the room filling with the hum of machinery. Minutes stretched into hours as the team worked together, making adjustments and monitoring results. Finally, the moment came. Alex twitched his fingers, then flexed his arms. Slowly, he sat up, tears streaming down his face. It works, he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. I can feel my legs. The room erupted in cheers, the weight of months of effort lifting instantly. Claire hugged Lily tightly, her own tears flowing freely. Nathan allowed himself a rare smile, pride shining in his eyes. In the days that followed, news of their success spread cautiously. The team published their findings, emphasizing the importance of ethical guidelines and public oversight. Governments and corporations took notice, some intrigued, others wary, but Claire, Nathan, and Lily remained steadfast, refusing to compromise their principles. As they stood together overlooking the city skyline one evening, Claire spoke the words they all felt. "This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Humanity has always dreamed of reaching new heights. Now it's our job to guide those dreams responsibly." Lily smiled, looking at her mother and Nathan. Despite everything they'd endured, they had built something extraordinary. Not just a project, but a family united by love and purpose. For the first time in her life, Lily felt truly hopeful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together. And in doing so, they would honor the legacy of those who had come before them and pave the way for generations to come.